Hey, the Craig Fahle Show on Deadline Detroit is made possible by Samaritas, which is the state's largest private foster care and adoption agency. But they do a heck of a lot more than that. They've been serving homeless families, persons with disabilities, abused and trafficked women. They're also one of the largest resettlement agencies in the state. They provide market rate and affordable housing for seniors and HUD housing for families. And they also have skilled nursing, memory care, and rehab communities in Grand Rapids, Cadillac, and Saginaw. Samaritas, thanks for their support. Great organization, doing great stuff all around the state. And we're live. This is the Craig Fahle Show on Deadline Detroit. We're live at the Grand Hotel for the Mackinac Policy Conference. My guest right now, of course, U.S. Senator Debbie Stabenow.
Hi.
Welcome.
It's good to be with you.
Always
You've
a pleasure to
been
talk
working
to you. Well, you know, it's not work.
I know.
When you love what you do.
Look out the window here, it's not work. Yeah.
Well, you know, why don't we start with that? Do you love what you do right now? I mean, you're having interesting times in the U.S. Senate, for sure.
Well, you know, I've lived in Michigan my whole life. I love being in a spot to solve problems, but it's a very difficult, chaotic time. So that we've had better moments, a better atmosphere, but I just do everything I can to try to keep my head down, get things done.
Well, I'm assuming that you're being peppered with questions, especially, I mean, you're on the Agriculture Committee.
Right.
You know, this is a role that you played for a long time. It's a huge part of Michigan's economy. We've got tariffs and now some potential bailouts for certain farmers that might be impacted by these tariff decisions. What kind of questions are you getting from people, and what are you telling them?
Well, first of all, you know, I'm going to support our farmers in any way I can, but what they tell me over and over is we want trade, not aid. I mean, that's, you know, we need markets. And so, and I'm not opposed, certainly agree with the president that we need to be doing certain things strategically with China. No question about that. But they're not doing this in a thoughtful way. And our farmers are getting caught in the middle of it, which I'm deeply concerned about. So while they're really being pretty chaotic in their trade policy, they come in with something to help farmers in terms of subsidies. But then we look at the first round of what they did. A lot of folks, like our cherry growers who are impacted, didn't get any help. Certain industries got help, certain industries didn't. And what is even more alarming is that foreign-owned processing companies actually got American taxpayer dollars. So, for instance, JBS, which is a Brazilian company, pork processor, gets American taxpayer money, and in Brazil, they're taking our markets. They're taking the markets that China used to provide us. And so, and there was a case where they were going to give money to a Chinese-owned company, Smithfield Pork, which is now owned by a Chinese company, and I raised an issue, others did, and Smithfield themselves actually backed out and said, no, we won't take the money, because they knew, I mean, it was outrageous. But USDA was going to do that. So, you know, I want to support our farmers, but the way they are doing this right now, I am not supportive of.
How legitimate a concern is it to be worried that these markets close permanently to our products?
Absolutely. It takes a long time. It's like I was talking to some business people here who were saying, you know, it's a lot of work to get a new customer, and if I lose a customer, sometimes you don't get them back. And so we certainly hope that that's not the case. I mean, we have to have those markets. Our farmers have to have those markets. But we have no idea whether they're going to be able to get those back. So I want to be tough on trade. I want to export products, not jobs. But right now there's not a plan. It's very chaotic. And our folks are getting caught in the middle and being hurt.
Well, you know, a cynical person might suggest that this aid package that's being put out to farmers is meant to pacify a voter bloc that otherwise would be upset if they really looked at some of the trade policies and the impact that they're having. How right would they be if somebody suggested that?
It is a political response, no question. I mean, we passed a 5-year farm bill, which I helped lead back in December, that lays out the right way to support agriculture. And we have both trade promotion dollars, we have assistance when there's a downturn, risk management efforts like crop insurance, conservation policies, a whole range of things that are the right way to spend American tax dollars. So instead of just having that and allowing them to trade, they're really, in my judgment, throwing money at a problem that they created in the administration. And this is certainly not sustainable long term.
So. Well, I have to ask you this. I mean, you know, your Republican cohorts in the Senate have not really said a whole lot about this. They've been very quiet. Mitch McConnell is not moving a lot of bills that are being passed by the House. In fact, you guys according to your fellow Senator Gary
Right.
Peters, all you're doing is basically voting on judges right now.
Right.
Gridlock in the Senate, is there any likelihood that you see that changes anytime soon? Will any of the things that the House is doing right now get a fair hearing in the Senate anytime soon?
Well, I hope so. I mean, I don't know. The Senate Majority Leader is the one who determines the schedule, but I can tell you that I've been leading the efforts to make sure we do everything we can to bring up the House bills on health care that protect people with pre-existing conditions. That's in jeopardy, and about half the families in Michigan have somebody with a pre-existing health care issue. And so that's important. We've seen over 100 days since the Violence Against Women Act expired that funds shelters and support for victims of domestic assault. Last week, I helped lead that effort to try to get the Senate to bring it up. This ought to be a no-brainer, and we haven't been able to. So I'm leading efforts to do everything we can to act on things that are bipartisan. They are bipartisan. And at the moment, the Senate leader is, Mitch McConnell, for whatever reason, is choosing not to bring them up.
Well, I know you have a panel to get to, so I'm going to let you go right now, but I will call you when we get back to town because there are going to be some other things that we need to talk about.
Perfect.
But, you've got to go talk to an audience right now as opposed to mine. So
keep up the great
Senator
work.
Stabenow, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
All right. Senator Debbie Stabenow here on the Craig Fahle Show on Deadline Detroit.